Singing Dutchman Productions. Hello and welcome to Doug's Front Porch, a podcast where I get to sit down with friends, old and new, and have honest conversations. Today, I welcome Shawn Becker to the front porch, a dear old friend of at least 20-some years now, and I'm so excited that he agreed to come on. So welcome to the front porch, Shawn.
Well, thank you for having me, sir. It's an honor.
Oh, wow. It's an honor being able to talk to you anytime I get the chance to talk to you. Shawn, I usually start all my episodes kind of the same way, and I'd like to do the same with you. Tell the audience a little bit about where you grew up, a little bit maybe about your childhood, what things were you interested in? Because I know that you moved a little bit when you were a kid because of your dad's work. If you want to talk maybe just a little bit about that, share some stories.
Okay. I was born here I live on the east side of Pennsylvania. I live in Quakertown. I was born and raised in the Sellersville area. My father, due to work, took us from Sellersville out to Mentor, Ohio. We lived up on Lake Erie. I lived up there for, 3 years, I guess it was, where we ended up moving back here to the Sellersville area again. Lived in 4 different homes here in the Sellersville area throughout my years. And then after high school, I decided to join the military, and I moved away. I moved to Hawaii.
We're gonna talk. I want to talk a lot about that part of your life. But there's one thing that the people can't tell, of course, because this is audio. But Shawn, tell everybody how tall you are.
Hey, I'm short. Come on, I'm only 4'3".
Yeah, right.
No, I'm 6'6", and I am no.
Were you always tall as a kid too?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I'm trying to remember. I was 13, 14, somewhere around there. I sprouted like a massive sprout. I grew over a foot in 1 year. So I was kind of eye to eye with a lot of people. In the beginning of the year, by the end of the year, I was towering over everybody. But I am no longer the tallest in my family. My nephew is now 6'7", so I can't hold the title anymore.
That darn inch got you, right?
Yep, got me.
So you never had interest in like playing basketball or anything when you were a kid, or did you enjoy doing that?
In high school, I had the coach used to follow me around and beg me to join the basketball team. I never really had an interest in basketball. I enjoyed volleyball a lot more. I didn't actually play for high school, but I played in a small kind of youth group league outside of high school, where we played twice a week, every week. It just, sports were never. I played soccer, I played baseball, but it really didn't intrigue me that much. I got into other things, cars, and whereas that was a big thing when I was a teenager, was cars, and getting in trouble. Lots of that.
We'll pass on the getting in trouble stories. So you already hinted this, and I definitely want to talk about it. You mentioned that after high school, you decided to go into the military. Now, the one thing that I really want you to tell our audiences about is this is going to sound weird, but you chose to go the non-traditional military route. I think when everybody thinks military, or most Americans think military, they think of the big, and I don't, this is going to come off wrong, but the big branches: Navy, Army, Air Force, the Marines. But you went the Coast Guard. So could you talk a little bit about that? I bet there are a lot of people honestly listening to the episode that maybe don't even understand what the Coast Guard actually does and how it falls into the hierarchy of the United States military.
I chose the Coast Guard for one simple reason. I've always been a type of person that likes to help. When there's a fire, I run towards it instead of away from it. I have that mentality, that spirit is inside of me. I also have, my great grandfather was Coast Guard. My grandmother was also auxiliary Coast Guard. So it was in part of my family, and that intrigued me, kind of steered me in that direction. The Coast Guard has changed a lot since I was in. When I joined, we were part of the Department of Transportation, where the other big four, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, are all part of the Department of Defense. Being part of the Department of Transportation allowed the Coast Guard to arrest civilians in the United States. The Department of Defense does not hold that power over us, only if you're on a military base. The Coast Guard's very small. At the time that I was in, I think we had 32 or 35,000 members. Coast Guard also holds the title as the oldest continuous armed force in the United States. Even though the Army and the Navy are older, they've also gone kind of mothballed for a while when we didn't need them. Coast Guard has always been there. They also was part of the lighthouse service way back in the day, and can combine forces and is what is we have now, the United States Coast Guard. It was an experience.
Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about that. So this Coast Guard had a boot camp like all the other branches. Okay.
Just like the other branches. And it's fairly short. It's 2 months. A lot of the other branches are 2 months. I think Marine Corps is a bit longer. The difference with the Coast Guard is when you finish boot camp, you go directly to a station and start working right away. In the other branches, as soon as you're done boot camp, you go to school and you learn your trade, whatever you're going to do. Because the Coast Guard was much smaller and a lot less money than the other branches, they don't have that luxury. So when I finished boot camp is so far from here, is in Cape May, New Jersey. It is the only boot camp in the United States. There used to be one over on the West Coast, but because of money issues, they had to shut that one down. So after boot camp at Cape May, my first station was Barbers Point, Hawaii. It was a really, really tough assignment.
And it was not like you had any say in that. There, you graduated, no. And like Officer, Sergeant Becker, you're off to Hawaii. You just got the lucky
pretty
draw.
Much. It was I finished boot camp, and I had picked a boat, a ship actually. But as I was getting ready to graduate boot camp, they said, we're sending that ship to dry dock for repairs. So we don't really need you there, but they need somebody at Barbers Point. So they sent me there instead. It's still, they were both overseas. They were both in Hawaii, both the ship and this, my first station were both there. So that's why they sent me there. But it happened to be an air station. So I got quite the experience with the Coast Guard C-130s and their helicopters, the Dolphins, the HH-65s. I got to go on quite a few flights. I got plenty of time in a helicopter and plenty of time in a C-130. You got to travel all over.
One of the things that the Coast Guard does is rescues ships that are in danger, correct? I mean, was that the kind of stuff that you were doing, or is it other stuff too?
A lot of it, the Coast Guard has so many different jobs out there. When we would go out on the C-130s, depending on what the mission was, we had medevacs. I remember going on a medevac to American Samoa to pick up a gentleman who had a heart attack, and their hospital was unable to help him there. So we flew to American Samoa, picked him up, and brought him back to Oahu, Hawaii, to the medical facilities there that were able to help him. We also used to run supplies. We'd run supplies out to Midway, to Wake Island. Quite a few flights back and forth between the many islands of Hawaii. Also go out on patrols where you're on a fishery patrol. We go out with a radar and you search for ships out in the sea to make sure they're not fishing in illegal waters. That's another one of the big stories that I had was we happened to find a ship called the Eastwood that was dead in the water and floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It was about 1,500 miles southwest of Oahu. That happened to have 800 Chinese immigrants on board that never made it to the United States because the boat broke down in the middle of the ocean. So that was a whole humanitarian effort, as well as going out and looking for ships that were overdue. If somebody didn't come home and bad seas or whatnot, we would go out and we'd go looking for them. And with the helicopters, that got into a whole different realm. Started to learn with the rescue swimmers. The aviation survival men is what they were called back then. I'm not really sure what they call them these days. They've changed everything. But these are the guys that jump out of the helicopter and come get you and pull you to safety. And that was the kind of job that I wanted to do. That had me written all over it. Especially being a fish. I did 7 years of swim team in high school. I love the water. So that was another reason I joined the Coast Guard.
Well, Hawaii sounds awesome, beautiful weather and all that, but you didn't spend your whole time in the Coast Guard in Hawaii. Where did you get shipped to after that?
I went to the Great Lakes. I ended up on Lake Erie for the second half of my tour.
The exact opposite situation.
Yes. And my first winter, I suffered. I suffered like nobody else. My first winter on Lake Erie. You go from the middle of the winter in Hawaii. I think the coldest temperature we ever saw was like 55 degrees. And then I end up in Hawaii and on Lake Erie outside of Cleveland. And I think the coldest that first year was five, like 2 or 3 degrees. It was a huge change in climates, that's for sure.
How was what you had to do on the Great Lakes different from what you were doing in the Pacific?
This was a lot more hands-on. On Lake Erie, I was at a small boat station. So I got to go out and actually interact with the public on a daily basis. Whenever we were on duty, we would take the boat and we'd go out. And that's a lot of the Coast Guard's job, is just to teach the public safety of boating, the safety of being out on the water. A lot of people don't realize when things go bad, they go really bad when you're on the water. I mean, if your car breaks down on the side of the road, oh, well, you can walk home. Your boat breaks down 5 miles out. I don't think you're swimming ashore. So there's a lot more life and death situation on the water. But with freshwater, it was a totally different experience too. You don't float as well, that's for compared to saltwater. And in the sea, people don't realize how mean the Great Lakes can get. I know a lot of people probably know the Edmund Fitzgerald. What was that? Gordon Lightfoot, the Ballad of Edmund Fitzgerald, a giant laker that disappeared. She ended up, I guess they figured out she snapped in half for the most part and sank instantly. And I know one instance, we were on Lake Erie. It was a beautiful day, summer. Middle summer was like July. The water was calm, 1 foot rollers, just almost glass out there, clear blue skies. And in an hour, it turned into hell on earth. Actually, it was 20 to 25 foot seas, 60-mile-an-hour winds, and torrential downpours. Just a total change in the weather. That particular day we had, if I remember right, reading, we had over 800 calls on the radio in the whole group, which spans from Detroit to Ashtabula, Ohio, just short of Erie, Pennsylvania. There were 800 calls. Out of 800 calls, not one person lost their lives. There were many, many boats that sank. So the next morning when we went out to search, make sure that everybody was safe, we found quite a few boats with their bows bobbing in the air. And or just a oil slick on the water that the boat had gone down completely. But it was a miracle that nobody died in that storm. Um, that opened my eyes to how mean the Great Lakes can get, and in a blink of an eye too.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans don't realize how well. I think a lot of Americans don't realize just how big they are until you.
This is true.
I mean,
This
you can
is
look.
true.
You can look at them on a map, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's pretty big." But then when you really start to think about just how massive these lakes are, and they probably have like their own sort of weather climate or weather systems can develop out of nowhere on them.
They do. Erie and Ontario both are some of the meaner ones. Erie, especially because it's shallow. I think the deepest section of Lake Erie is 80 feet deep. It's a very shallow lake, and it runs east to west. So it runs along with the winds. When the winds come rolling in, they run right down the lake, and they create some enormous waves, and quickly. But it's not waves like in the ocean. The ocean, you can count on them coming in the same direction all the time for the most part. In the Great Lakes, they refract off the shore, and you get them in every direction. They come at you. So it's a bit scary. It definitely keeps you on your toes when you're out there in rough seas. But
that's crazy. Well, we don't want to talk that kind of stuff the whole time, but I thought it was just I wanted my audience to get a taste of a little bit more about the Coast Guard, because I truly think that the vast majority of Americans have no idea what they do.
And it's amazing what it has turned into. It's now part of the Department of Homeland Security. So they basically gotten probably 4 times the amount of money that they used to have. And port security has become a huge portion of the Coast Guard. It has changed so much in the last 20 years. It's really, and for the better. It's really amazing. Cape May, New Jersey, my mother was living there for a while, and they do a community day for the Coast Guard down there. They've designated Cape May a Coast Guard community because of boot camp being there. And once a year, I believe it's the first weekend of every May, they do this community day down there. And they bring some of the ships. There are a few ships that are stationed out of Cape May. They bring a few of the boats down from Philadelphia, come down. They have some buoy tenders. Aids to navigation. That's a big one from the Coast Guard. So they all get together, and you can go check it out. It's open to the public. You get to tour the boats, and they have some new cutters now that I still haven't made it down there to see. They're quick response cutters, just so they can get to the scene faster. It's like the police or the fire departments here on land. It's the same thing. They've got these state-of-the-art cars and these trucks in order to aid people in trouble. So the Coast Guard is finally getting some money to get the equipment they need. It's nice to see.
Yeah. Well, we're going to totally shift gears here because I want to talk a little bit about your current job. So after
dear to your heart.
Yeah. Well, yeah. After the Coast Guard, I mean, you had a lot of different jobs, but the one that you have right now is the one that I think is interesting because I do have people that listen to this show that aren't from Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania, when it comes to your job, has some weird laws in regards to how. So Shawn works for a very large beer distributor here in southeastern Pennsylvania. And again, for people not from Pennsylvania, the idea of how you get your beer for most states in the United States is just go to the grocery store and you can get a case but Pennsylvania has always been a little funky about how we sell our alcohol. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your current job and some of the things that you've experienced here over the last 2 years in particular.
Well, yeah. I sell beer for a living. That's what I do.
Yes, you do. And you guys sell a lot of beer.
Yes. And we pride ourselves where we're at on having the largest selection of craft beer in Bucks County. We're in Bucks County. So B&B Beverages it's what they thrive on. That's what we thrive on, is having something that most places don't have. You go to a beer distributor in Pennsylvania, you have to get liquor and wine from a wine and spirits. The state controls the wine and liquor, but they allowed the public to sell and control the beer. So the gentleman I work for, his father started a company in 1963, I believe it was. And we're working on the third generation for this company. His son will be taking over, and his son he's amazing with the craft beer. He does a lot of homework when it comes to finding some good stuff. And it's just about every small town in America nowadays has a microbrew. And a lot of them just stay within themselves. They only cater to their small little communities. In Pennsylvania, a lot of the microbrews have a chance if they excel in their craft and it really catches on and people want more of it, then they talk to people like us to bring their product in to sell to a larger amount of the public. And that's what we like to pride ourselves on.
Okay, so I have a couple quick questions for you.
Sure.
Go back in time to the weekend before lockdown in 2020 when COVID.
Oh my Lord.
So beer distributors were allowed to stay open during the state lockdown here in Pennsylvania.
When the governor decided in March of 2020 that he was going to close the state stores to protect the employees, which, good for him. But most people don't realize that the beer distributors do not work for the state. So it opened this floodgate of complete chaos the first weekend. He made his announcement at like 6 p.m. on a Saturday. At that point in time, we used to stay open until 9. We did more business in 3 hours than we did the entire day. That Sunday, we ran out of beer almost. It cleaned us out. People walking out with 2 or 3 shopping carts loaded with beer because everybody believed they weren't going to be able to get it, the following days. But we never closed. We were open the whole time. So it was the COVID year was good to us, but very difficult to try and maintain that safety to appease not only the public, but the state guidelines. It was a little difficult, but we managed to muscle through it and made it work.
And I think you told me at one point that like your sales were through the roof throughout lockdown. Yeah. And since, I mean, during the whole pandemic era.
Yes.
Do you find that
nobody had anything better to do than sit at home and drink beer?
It seemed that way.
That was your day.
Did you find that a lot of the customers coming in were kind of weird about everything? Like, I really need to get this just in case, or
at first, yes. At first, that's how it was. It was, I got to get my beer now because you're not going to have it. And then once they realized that we weren't going anywhere, we saw the number of cases each person would buy diminish. So instead of coming in and buying 6 cases, now they're only coming in and buying 2. They got them through the week or a small family gathering that we weren't supposed to be having. But it also brought in a lot more customers from those who would go to the state store to get their wine and liquor, couldn't get wine or liquor. So they're like, well, let's go check out the beer distributor. So we got a lot of new customers. And it's kind of nice. We've actually retained a lot of those new customers. The word spread that the beer distributors were still open. So we got a lot of people coming from outside of our town to see us, just because we had something special that they were looking for. But that has since spread, and it's amazing the power of the word. You know, you tell a friend, your friend tells a friend, and the grapevine travels, and everybody, oh, I got to go check that place out. So that was a big bonus for us during COVID, I believe. But yes, the numbers were absolutely ridiculous. The number of cases of beer we sold.
The one other day of the year that I always hear is it's like this mythical day for your profession is Thanksgiving Eve.
Yes.
Is it really as crazy as I've heard?
Yes, it is the number one busiest day of the year is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Mainly because everybody, gathers up, supplies for Thanksgiving when they have the whole family over. It's also the number one drinking night for most college kids because it's I think if I'm right, it's the first time you're away from college. It's your first time home. So all the bars in town, they get great business that Wednesday night. So it kind of goes hand in hand with us. The bars do good, we do good. Actually, we've already started ramping up for it. We're getting ready.
And just one last thing about this part of your life. So you already mentioned about this huge craft beer selection that your job has, your place of employment. How crazy are craft beer people?
Oh my Lord, there's certain ones that are a unique breed.
What do you mean by that? Can you explain a little bit from your perspective?
I don't think I've ever seen a place other than a beer distributor, ours, is the only time I've ever really taken notice to people who get their phones out and look up a specific product. They'll spend 2 hours in the store shopping the different types of beer. Now, granted, we also pride ourselves on our knowledge of the beer. It's tougher for me because I don't drink. So there was a few that I have tasted. I've drank a few sips here and there of different beers, but I don't drink for the most part. And it's very difficult for me to explain to people what to expect when they buy a beer. The craft beer people, they fit that stereotype, that look that comes in, the millennials. And they go for certain things. I mean, you could see a difference in people who enjoy their stouts, and that's what they go for. They're imperial stouts, they're high-end stouts. That's one type of craft beer person. And then you get your IPAs, which are completely out of control, especially the New England styles, which brings in a different type of person. And then you have your sours, and that's got a whole another level of people. And then your ciders and the seltzers. Oh my Lord, the seltzers. That's probably the craziest product in the last 2 years is the hard seltzers that are out. We literally had to start a whole new section in the store just for hard seltzers.
That's crazy.
Because it just every week there's new ones coming out. And everybody's trying to jump on that bandwagon after seeing the revenue that White Claw made in its first year. It was ridiculous. So
you've told me that you'll know ahead of time that like there's this really special, unique micro brew that's coming out that you guys are going to get X amount of bottles of, and you have your place will have waiting lists of people.
Oh yeah,
to get these really unique, rare kinds.
We used to do a lot of the waiting list where we'd actually hold on to stuff for people. It has gotten too far out of control that we had to end it. We had to say that's enough. We'll let you know when it's coming, and it's first come, first serve.
And you'll have people waiting, hours before the doors open.
Oh my Lord, Black Friday, which is it. It is one of the funniest days for me in at the store Black Friday for retail sales. Say people go out shopping for their TV deals and all that. Yeah, they go out and they camp out. We get them for beer because certain beers only come out on Black Friday, and people will camp out in our parking lot waiting. They'll be out there at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. They got lawn chairs set up. They're sitting in front of the door, and we don't open until 9. So they're out there for 6 hours. And when I come in the morning at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, the parking lot is full. And there's 40 people standing in front of the door waiting to come in before 9 o'clock. It's crazy. So we'll see how this year goes.
I'm sure it'll be the same.
I'm expecting it to be worse because people are a little cabin crazy from last year. They weren't able to do it last year. So this year probably be a bigger event than it was last year.
Holy cow. Well, the last thing I want to talk to you about is what we share the most in common other than our friendship. And that is Shawn and I are motorcycle brothers. I don't know how else we want to say it.
The love of two wheels.
The love of two wheels. So let's talk a little bit about that. We've talked a lot about motorcycles because that's, one of the things that we love to do together. But if you had to explain to somebody that's never been on a motorcycle why you love it so much, what do you say to that person?
It's really kind of hard to explain. And I've tried to explain to people, like my father. My father doesn't ride. Neither does my mother. I've had my mother on the back with me, so she knows the feeling. But most people don't understand why somebody would get on and ride 1,000 miles in a weekend just for the sake of riding. And I always laugh at the analogy of, we know why a dog sticks his head out the window. It's that it's kind of funny that the old sayings of, the wind in your face, just you get to experience everything on a motorcycle. If it's a beautiful day, you feel the sun, you can smell the surrounding so much better than you do in a car. Even in a convertible, it's better than being in a convertible. And on the other side of that, when it's raining, you get wet. When the weather's terrible, you really get to experience that terrible weather, or get blown off the road when you're too light, when the winds are too heavy. For me, it's kind of it's my zen. It's my time of reflection. I'm by myself in my helmet. I usually have my earplugs in, and I just get to be by myself. Especially, with my job, I deal with the public all day, every day. So I get to talk to a lot of people. I do a lot of talking throughout the day. So it's my quiet time, as well as nature. I'm a huge lover of nature and the outdoors. So it gets me in touch with that quite a bit more than being in a car.
Oh, the one thing of course, everything you said is absolutely true. But for me, the one thing that always impresses me the most every time I go out, and I should be used to it by now, but anytime I throw the leg over the bike and go for a ride, it's the smell of everything that always it's like, this is why I do this. And you're right. It's on a nice summer day and you're riding along and you go past somebody that just cut their grass, you get that smell. Or what I love too is when you drive through an area that's wooded and you can smell the woods. Now you also have the exact opposite. You get to a stop sign and you're sitting there waiting, and there's a dead groundhog right at your feet that's been there for like 3-4 days. You also get that smell too.
Oh yeah. So,
it comes.
Oh yeah, or you go past the dead skunk that's sitting on the side of the road.
Right. Just like you said with the weather, you get the best of both worlds. You get that the warm sun on your face, but you could also ride and do pelting rain to let you know that you're alive. Or hail. True.
Oh yeah.
one thing that Shawn and I have done a lot is we've done multiple day trips on our bikes. Shawn and I went cross country a couple of years ago where we were 20 some days on the motorcycles
Mm-hmm.
from Pennsylvania to the Pacific and back. I was going to ask you why, it's one thing to go like on a Saturday afternoon and go for a ride, which a lot of people do. A lot of motorcyclists will do that, but I think it's a totally different situation if you're going to throw all of your luggage and your clothes on the back of the motorcycle, and we're going to go 20 days cross country, for example, or even just like 5 days. What is it about traveling like that appeals to you?
Well, it's the experience of a new place. I do quite a bit of riding here at home, and I know pretty much all the roads around me. I've picked out all my favorites, so I make these really great loops around. So during the week, after dinner or something, I'll take a quick spin and I'll go put 50, 60 miles on after dinner. Go get some ice cream and make my way back. But to travel, it's that experiencing something new each day. So by staying, going 200, 300, 400 miles and then calling it a day, doing it again and heading away from home into new territory, that new experience, that's something that always has drawn me more and more to doing it on a bike than in a car. I drove across the country in the car and it just wasn't the same as doing it on a bike. It's that, being one with your surroundings that you don't really get in a car.
Do you honestly worry, excuse me, about the vulnerability aspect of it all?
It's in the back of my head, but it doesn't. I mean, I've had 2 crashes now. I had a front end wipe out on me in a corner and I went down. I got some road rash from that. And that was 2,000 miles away from home. That was in New Mexico. I did that. And then I had a very unfortunate incident 10, 11 years ago where I had somebody run a stop sign or run a red light and take me out. Totaled my motorcycle and banged me up pretty good for a while. So the danger's there, but I don't let it rule my life. I mean, I'm not going to, after I get hit the last time, I wanted to get back on the bike the next day. Now, granted, my poor body wasn't capable of getting back on the next day, but I had the urge to do it. It's like getting kicked off a horse. You got to get right back on.
Yeah, but there's 2 kinds of people in this world. I think there's the kind of people like you that right away, you had this accident that could have killed you, and you said, I want to do this again, or the horse kicked me off. I want to get right back on that horse. And then there's the kind of people that they would walk away from that forever. Like, I'm never doing that again. Yes. Why do you think you are the kind of person that says, get me right back on that motorcycle or get me right back on that horse?
That's a good question. And I don't know how to answer that other than it's the type of person I've always been. Like I said, with the Coast Guard and even before the Coast Guard, I can remember times I lived on a really bad road, had a really bad corner, and I've seen lots of accidents. And I've always been the type of person that ran towards danger. So to get back on a motorcycle after getting thrown off, and I ride the dirt bikes too, the dirt bike too, and I've crashed them quite a few times, but it's never dawned on me not to do it. It's just who I am. It's my character. And I guess kind of the old cowboy analogy where, so what? I got kicked by the horse. I'm getting back on. I don't care. And I do know people who have had near-death experiences on a motorcycle who said, that's it, I'm done, and sold the bike. And 10, 15 years later, they're like, I really wanted to get back on and do it. It's another part of me that's why I keep doing it. It's something I absolutely love. I enjoy it so much that I don't think there's a whole lot that would stop me from doing it.
Good answer. Good answer. Well, Shawn, every episode ends with 10 quick questions. Are you ready for your 10 quick questions?
Bring it on.
All right, here we go. I know the answers to some of these. At least I think I do. But there's a couple that I'm a little curious. So here we go. Question number 1. What is your morning drink of choice?
Coffee.
You've always been a coffee drinker as long as I've known you, right?
Yeah, I actually cut back quite a bit. I used to drink quite a few cups of coffee every morning. Now it's just one.
You can do it just one? Holy cow.
Well, it's 20 ounces.
Oh, okay. There we go.
My one cup got really big.
Yeah, right. Well, there you go. Number 2, who is a go-to musical artist or group?
Oh, I've always been a metalhead. I'm an 80s metalhead. So my favorite is Metallica, hands down. So actually some of the newer stuff from some of the new bands, it's not bad, but I always go back to my Metallica.
One of my favorite things when we ride, you're usually in front and I bring up the caboose. And since we both listen to music while we're riding often, we have these earplugs that we wear. I love going down the road and just seeing your head bob along. And I know you're listening to, I could tell if it's a song that you really like, depending how much your head is moving as opposed to when it isn't.
Or set the cruise control and start air drumming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for example. Oh, man. All right. Question number 3. What movie can you watch over and over again and it never gets old?
Oh, my Lord. Just about anything Mel Brooks. Blazing Saddles, one of my favorites. Spaceballs. They're all great.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong.
Back to back. Yep. Yeah.
All right. Number 4. What is the last thing that you read?
Oh, that's a good question. I was just reading the MOA magazine.
Okay, there we go.
Jack's latest thing. That's probably the last thing I was reading.
So for those that don't know, the MOA is the one motorcycle group that we belong to. It's their monthly magazine, and it's full of great stuff. So good content.
Yes, yeah. I love a lot of their maintenance stuff.
Yeah,
it helps a lot. So,
all right, number 5. What is your favorite pizza topping?
Oh, probably mushrooms.
Yes. You're right, Shawn. You're right.
Mushrooms.
Number 6. I know this one. Well, maybe not. Laying on the beach or going for a hike?
Oh, hike. I'm done with it. The sand. No, thank you. I've had sand stuck in places I'd rather not talk about.
Sounds good. You've invited me over for dinner. What are you making?
Oh, probably one of my favorites, steak and taters. A baked potato, good steak.
I enjoy both. Both.
Maybe some spare grass.
There we go. Yeah. Number 8. What is a dream vacation destination? You've been a lot of places in the world already, but is there some place that hasn't been checked off yet that you really want to do?
Alaska. That's real high on my bucket list.
Anything particular in Alaska?
I would love to go to Prudhoe Bay, to go all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. I'd love to do that on a motorcycle. But if I don't get to do it I just want to do it. There's so many places in Alaska that I would love to see. Another one I would love to see is Dick Pernicke, Alone in the Wilderness. Gentlemen, they did that whole docuseries on who built this cabin on the Twin Lakes in the middle of absolute nowhere. You can get a float plane to take you over to Twin Lakes and go see his cabin. It's now a state park, I do believe. He donated it to the state. But like I said, my biggest thing about travel, and I've told myself this multiple times, is I want to see all of the United States. And I only have a few more states. I think I have 4 more states to see, and I've got them all. I've got all 50. and then I want to travel abroad. I'd like to get over to Ireland, family in Ireland. I want to get to Germany.
Yeah.
I'm not going to Germany without you.
That sounds fine. I'm always ready.
Yes, let's go. All right.
All right. Question number 9. What is something that you're afraid of?
I don't know. That's a good one. There's not a whole lot that scares me. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, that's all right. No, if you don't have something, I mean, you're a tough guy. So, I mean, I've never seen you scared. So
I don't know. I mean, losing loved ones always scares me.
Sure.
I hear, with mother and father and health issues, they're doing good, but that always sits in the back of my mind.
Sure.
One of those things that we quite tough, and I don't know how you managed to make it through the loss of your mother. I don't know how I would have reacted.
Yeah.
I know in today, if I were to lose one of them, I know they're getting older and that time is in the future. But I've told myself if I were to lose my father tomorrow, you wouldn't see me for a month. Because I would get on my bike and I would disappear for a month just to clear my head.
Yeah.
Just to come to grips with it, that kind of thing. So that's probably the only thing that really scares me.
Yeah. Well, that is scary.
Or any of my friends, y'all are family to me. So
yeah, it's tough. That's
yeah.
All right. Last question. What job, other than one that you've had in the past, would you love to have?
Oh, I don't know. Backcountry guide would be cool. I think that'd be a neat job to be able to take people out and experience true nature and in its all its glory. Like some of these guys I see that do these pack horses that take you out deep into the wilderness for a couple days at a time. That'd be cool. A cool job to do.
Yeah, I think it would be. I think it'd be tough. I think it'd be tough, but I think it would be rewarding too.
My Lord, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Shawn, we have a great friendship, and I appreciate your friendship all these years. We've spent a lot of miles on the motorcycle, and we've spent a lot of hours sitting around a campfire or on my back porch or in all the things that we've done. But I wanted to thank you for being such a good friend, and thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come up here on the front porch and do an interview with me. So thanks so much, Shawn.
Thank you for having me. It has been an absolute honor. I look forward to many, many more front porches and back porches and many more miles in the future.
You got it, buddy. Me too. All right. Take care. Thank you for listening to Doug's Front Porch, a conversational podcast with your host, Doug Maidenford. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. 5 stars only, please. Follow along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for Doug's Front Porch. Also, please feel free to tell all of your friends about the show, and I'll see you all next time on my front porch.